Today's Tips du Jour mailbag question comes to us all the way from Australia. Robert, I seem to have a wolf note on the 5th string of my guitar. What causes that? Bruce in Sydney, Australia. Well, Bruce, first of all, let's talk about what a wolf note is. What's the definition of a wolf note? A wolf note happens when the frequency of the string is the same as one of the guitar's natural resonances, therefore resulting in a clunky or a dead type sound coming from that frequency when it's played on the guitar. Now, being that you're from Australia, I have a friend in Australia named Trevor Gore. He's been in my shop for the last week doing a series of master classes here with my students, and he can explain this in great detail. There are ways to diagnose it, and there are ways to fix it. So let me call him into the frame, and we'll show you how to do it.
Okay, so a wolf note is a note that sounds distinctly different from the notes around it or from the strings around it. And we can find it on this guitar. Here, if I play the open E, sounds like a fine note. If I play the open A, it's a lot louder. Now that's a wolf note, and it's happening because the string frequency A here at 110 Hertz is matching one of the resonances of a guitar. So the first way of diagnosing a wolf note is that it sounds distinctly different from the notes or strings around. The second way of doing that is that when we try and tune that note, we get some issues. So let's go and have a look at a big electronic tuner and see if we can see some of those issues. Okay, now we're at the bench. We heard before that the A string was loud. That probably means we got problems on all the A's, and it's pretty well illustrated by this example I'm going to give you now. If we look at the tuning on the E string here, the open E string, we can find it's pretty steady and pretty accurate. If we now play an A on that string, let's see what we get. A couple of things in there. It plays both quite a lot sharp, and the note is pretty oscillatory. And that's a direct indication that we've got a wolf note problem, because it's actually pushing the scale tone out of tune and it's oscillating a bit. Okay, so we've determined that we've got a problem on the A notes. The next thing to do is go and check out the box resonances and see where they tap out to. So what I'm going to do is take the guitar, which is my arms now. I'll get a little rubber hammer, I'll tap on the guitar, feed it into a different application on the computer, and it will throw out the frequency response curve of the guitar. Then we'll have a look at that in more detail. Okay, we're at the bench now with an application on the computer. The application is called Visual Analyzer, which is a free download. I'm going to tap this guitar with a little hammer I've made here. The hammer is made out of a little bouncy ball and a piece of satay stick. Very simple. What I'm going to do is tap on the guitar around the lower bout, and that will render on the screen after 10 taps a spectrum response of the guitar, and then we'll look at that in a bit more detail. So here's our frequency response curve that we just got from tapping the guitar. There are two peaks of particular interest. The first one, which denotes the main air resonance, and the second one here, which denotes the main top resonance. And that's awfully close to 110 Hertz, which is right on A, and that's awfully close to 220 Hertz, which is a harmonic of the A note. So it looks like we might potentially have two problems here. Hitting two harmonics of the A note, and that's why we're hearing the difference. So we've got a problem on both the air resonance and the top resonance, so we've got to think of ways to fix those. We need to be able to move those guitar resonances away from those scale note frequencies. We need to be typically half a semitone away, which gets us as far away as we can before we get close to another scale tone. So we need to make some alterations to both the air resonance and the main top resonance. Let's consider the main air resonance first. We can do that by making the whole of the guitar box a little softer, for example by reducing the top stiffness and reducing the back stiffness, and that'll reduce the frequency of the main air resonance. Or we can change the sound hole diameter. If we make the diameter smaller, the air resonance will reduce. If we make the sound hole diameter larger, the frequency of the air resonance will increase. So we've got some options to choose from there as to how to alter that. Now with the top resonance, we can also alter the stiffness and mass of the top to make a change to that top resonance. We can add mass to make the resonant frequency go down, or we can reduce stiffness to make the resonant frequency go down, or we can add stiffness to make the resonant frequency go up, or we can reduce mass to make the resonant frequency go up. So we've got some interesting options there, and we can go away and choose which one is best suited to this job.
So, Bruce and Sydney, thank you very much for your question. Now, like I said, this is some pretty advanced stuff. This is very detailed, and you can go as far down that rabbit hole as you want to go. As builders, though, we need to understand this stuff so we can build the best guitar we can possibly build. Now, I don't want this to sound like an advertisement for Trevor's books, although I highly recommend them. Google him, Trevor Gore book, and it pops up if you want to learn more about what we're talking about here. So thank you for your question. Happy building.